I'm here today joined by Indigenous Notions, Em and Marianne Forbes, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what they do for the community and their business and their artwork. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Em. I'm Caribbean and Inuk. I'm an artist and graphic designer. I'm a third-year student studying graphic design, and I've lived in Calgary pretty much my whole life, so, yeah.
Inuit Marianne, so I'm Inuk, and my name is Marianne. I'm originally from Inuit, but I came to Calgary about 25 years ago for university, and I've just been here ever since. So both my kids, born and raised in Calgary, and going strong on Treaty 7 territory.
Migrated, eh? So, Em, could you share about your creative works and what inspired you?
Sure. I mean, I've always loved art, and I've really enjoyed studying graphic design, so my mom kind of asked me to design a shirt that sort of represented all the different kinds of Indigenous people there are. So Inuit, Métis, First Nations, trying to create a shirt that was representative of all the different kinds of people who live in Calgary and were sort of affected by residential schools. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It's a beautiful shirt.
Thank you.
So, when did you both begin working together?
I designed my first shirt about 3 years ago, so we made about 100 that we just sort of sent to family and friends, and then after that they sort of encouraged me to keep selling more, so the second year got a grant from Calgary Arts Development that let me sell about 500, and then the year after I was able to sell about 400 just sort of through word of mouth and online sales and things like that.
So it really picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And what inspired the two of you to begin working on this project together?
I'm really proud of Em and the art that she shares. I love her design and being inclusive of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Em is generally very shy and may not always put herself out there, but with this project I was really excited to share her shirt with everybody and anybody. The other great thing about this project is that we felt like we've been able to give back to local and national Indigenous organizations. Through the sale of orange shirts, we've been able to donate more than 18,500 to organizations like the Orange Shirt Society, Urban Society for Aboriginal Youth, or USAY, Awatan, and ITK, or Inuit Tipirit Kanatami. So we've been really, really proud of that.
It is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marianne, did you ever guess that you and Em would end up working and creating together?
I always joke that I'm happy to be Em's momager. I'm really proud of the work she does, and I want her to be proud of the fact that she's Inuk. I want to encourage her to get out there and share her art with the world.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily expecting that I would work with my mom, but it's been a really fun and rewarding experience. So even if it wasn't something I was expecting, I've still really had a good time.
You just went with the flow, hey?
Mm-hmm.
How has your business, Indigenous Notions, been received by the community?
I think it's been received pretty well. We've been able to get a lot of support sort of across all of Canada and through online sales, and just from friends and family. It's been really good to see support from both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people for this project, so yeah.
Absolutely. So how is this project given back to the community?
Well, like she said, we were able to sort of donate to a couple of local and national Indigenous organizations, so that's been really great to sort of have somewhat of an impact on people and do what we can to sort of help our communities and other communities like that.
And so I know you mentioned that you now have a website. How has it evolved to this point?
Well, we sort of just started, like I said, selling just to family and friends, and then lots of other people showed interest, so it kind of just snowballed from there.
So I know you briefly mentioned it, but could you explain the meaning and symbolism behind the design you created?
Sure. So the Inukshuk is for Inuit, the feather is to sort of represent First Nations, and then the infinity symbol is to represent Métis, and then as well the circles are sort of to they're something that's really important to a lot of different Indigenous people, so they're just kind of meant to represent people coming together and sharing something.
It is beautiful.
Thank you.
So how has your connection to the community grown since creating this business?
Well, I think growing up in Calgary, it's been challenging at times to sort of stay connected to Inuit and Indigenous communities, but definitely I think doing this has and seeing the support from a lot of different people has really helped me feel a lot more connected in a lot of different ways. So that's been really nice.
That's wonderful. And so you both must be incredibly proud of one another. I've done some work myself with my mother, and it for sure comes with challenges, but it is incredibly rewarding. So how has it been for you, Em, to work with your mother?
It's been a really good experience. You know, she's definitely sort of challenged me and pushed me out of my comfort zone at times, but definitely overall, I'd say it's been lots of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
It's wonderful. Nothing like tough love.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Marianne, how has it been?
I think, like I said earlier, can be quite shy. So I feel like I tend to bully her into putting herself out there sometimes. But it all comes from love and pride, right? I want people to see the beautiful work that she does, and I want her to be proud of who she is and where she comes from.
Could you tell us how the two of you are involved with the community outside of this business?
Sure. I was featured in Coloring at Forbes traveling, like a reconciliation exhibition, and as well I've been featured in like the Calgary Public Art Indigenous program, and some of my work has been featured on some of their social media and things like that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a volunteer organizer representing Inuit for Aboriginal Awareness Week Calgary, and I've also been working with other Inuit in the city to try and build more of a community and get Inuit together more often through things like our Facebook page and that kind of thing, just to help Inuit feel more connected and not like being in the city like Calgary, you can feel really lonely sometimes. So
It's a drastic change from up north. Marianne, how has it impacted you to witness Em using your culture as inspiration for her creative work?
I think kind of the same kind of thing, you know, Calgary is just such a big city and we can sometimes feel lonely and not feel represented. So just having Em's artwork out in the city where people can see it and recognize it as being Inuk, I think it just helps all of us feel a little bit more connected, helps us feel not so lonely, and just kind of seeing that representation in the artistic community in cities like Calgary, I think is really important to share our culture, our knowledge, experience, all that kind of good stuff. Mm-hmm.
Wonderfully said. So how important do the both of you believe it is to hold space for Indigenous artists within the community and artistic world?
I definitely think it's really important. You know, a lot of Indigenous art in the past has sort of been about us rather than by us. So I think Indigenous people taking up that kind of space and sort of doing what they can to represent themselves is really important and valuable work.
I think for me, you know, I recognize Calgary's not my homeland. This is Blackfoot territory, but there are Inuit here, and I feel like Inuit should be included and provided with the opportunity to share our stories and experience, especially when it comes to things like residential schools and truth and reconciliation, right? We're all a part of those issues as well. So in the art world, I'm proud of the young Indigenous artists who have the courage to put themselves out there, and I love how Indigenous art is changing. You know, sometimes Indigenous art collectors want Indigenous art to look a particular way. But Indigenous art now doesn't always look like stereotypical Indigenous art. And any art Emma makes is Indigenous art because she's Inuk. So,
Kuyahoktana, I'm grateful. Konakahi, thank you for letting us share your story.
Thank you for having
So,
us.
what do you hope community members can take away from this interview?
I just sort of hope that more Indigenous artists feel empowered and excited about sharing their work and sort of seeing where it takes them. There are lots of different ways that you can celebrate your culture, and I think that's really important.
So I just encourage all Indigenous artists to be brave. Not everybody will connect with or love their work, but somebody out there will appreciate it and may need to see that representation. And I encourage Inuit to seek out and connect with other Inuit. I don't want anybody to feel alone, and we'd love to find ways for Inuit to connect more often.
Wonderfully said. Thank you so much for joining us on Local Lives. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think just beyond encouraging other Indigenous artists to share their work however they can and just, you know, get out there.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kwana.